Hey everybody, it's Salt from Pokemon Go Radio, the place for everything Pokemon Go. And there's something new to the game, and people are wondering, is it any good? Oh no, look, it's the mustache. It's so much worse. It's still here, but it's so much worse. Oh, look at it! No, we're talking about Cresselia, the Space Goose, back in T5 raids, and we've got to know, is this Pokemon a pick of the week, or is it a Pokemon pick of the week? And we're going to try to figure that out here today. Before we start talking about everybody's favorite Space Goose, make sure to like and subscribe this video and check the channel out for new content like this, as well as our weekly shows that come out on this channel every Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern. You can find our shows here for our regular podcast episodes with me and my brother Nar. But as far as the day's topic is concerned, we are talking about Cresselia. That's right. The new T5/old T5 that's back from the Sinnoh region. So a little history about Cresselia, Space Goose, Banana Helmet, whatever you want to call it. It started out in Gen 4, so it is a Sinnoh legendary Pokemon, and is part of the Lunar Duo, with its other half being the pitch black Pokemon, Darkrai. This is the lunar Pokemon, the light to Darkrai's darkness, if you will. Fun fact about it, as long as we're in the trivia section, Cresselia is always female. Also, double fun fact, I have no idea how to pronounce this Pokemon, so I will probably routinely refer to it as the Space Goose, or Space Goose Coast to Coast, or Banana Helmet, or Darkwing Duck Love Interest, or any other number of things I will use to try to avoid saying this Pokemon's name. Yeah, this is our second, third, fourth, I don't even know, crack at the apple here for Space Goose, but it originally debuted in November 20th of 2018, and since then, Cresselia has been in and out of PvE relevance and PvP relevance, so we want to talk today and figure out, is this something that you should be going hard for? If you've got a good one, what does a good one mean, and what can you use it for? The only way to get Cresselia right now is in Tier 5 raids. So if you've been out there grinding those remote raids during Thanksgiving and so forth and so on, you might have your hands on a pretty little Space Goose. Speaking of pretty Space Goose, look at it. Look at this shiny. The shiny model is out. Look how amazing this is. They really, I don't know, I think they hit their stride for shiny models in Gen 4 because that thing is amazing. I want one really bad. Space Goose, despite its appearances, is a pure psychic type. No fairy, no other odd types in here. It is a pure psychic type, which means it's going to be weak to ghost, dark, and bug as far as its overall well-roundedness. So for the overall Pokemon type matchup, psychic pretty good as far as what's going to be super effective against it, but as we'll discuss a little bit later on, some of that PvP meta can get really dark and ghost heavy, so not necessarily a cakewalk for the psychic types. As far as its resistance, it's only going to be fighting and other psychic types for its resistance. Which reminds me, the other day we were actually talking on the show about another type, and if there could be the 19th type introduced into Pokemon, and we came up with Celestial, and we were kind of talking about that. I think Space Goose here would be an absolute shoo-in for Space type or Celestial type or whatever you want to call it. Let us know if that's something that you're interested in, if you ever want to talk types or what Celestial type would be and other Pokemon that would fit that type. I just think it's a cool conversation. Well, let's discuss Space Goose's moves. And when it comes to starting with the quick moves, there's only two options, both psychic types. You've got Psycho Cut and you've got Confusion. Confusion hits harder, but for most purposes, energy generation just isn't going to be there. You've got Confusion generating 9.38 energy per second, and Psycho Cut, while dealing less damage, generating 13.33 energy per second. Most of the time, especially considering a lot of Cresselia's moves are going to be more energy requirement, getting the energy generation is going to be the priority here. It's not like Psycho Cut doesn't do damage. It's not the worst. It's just the animation time frames and the heavy-handedness, the haymaker of swinging with Confusion just oftentimes leaves Cresselia out there where you don't want to be. So it's not 100% case, but both we and PvP Poke recommend that you go ahead and go with Psycho Cut. Charge moves is where it gets a little bit more interesting. On your base non-legacy moves, you have Aurora Beam, Future Sight, and Moonblast. But Cresselia does have a legacy move, and that legacy move is Grass Knot, something you probably weren't expecting the Psychic Legendary Pokemon to come in with. It first appeared in the Sinnoh Throwback Challenge, and you could get that 2-bar Grass Charge move on board your Space Goose. As far as what you should pick, don't go with Aurora Beam. It is not good. It is a strictly worse Ice Beam in terms of both the requirements, the damage. Just don't do it. Unless there's just some crazy reason you just absolutely have to have an ice move on this Pokemon, strongly recommend you don't use Aurora Beam. Not a good move. So that leaves us with Future Sight and Moonblast. Future Sight, full bar 100 energy charge move, kind of meh, not really doing it for you, not probably where you want to be, but Moonblast is where it's at. It's Fairy, which is often extremely relevant, and especially a dragon-heavy meta, and it hits slightly harder, about like 8% more damage than Future Sight. You're probably going to want to go with Moonblast. The question is then, what fills out that third role? Legacy moves are not always going to be the, okay, yeah, just no-brainer, for sure, lock it up. But in this case, we do recommend that you go with Grass Knot, if you can get it. If you don't have it on your normal Space Goose, it is probably going to cost you a Super TM and Elite TM, but it can oftentimes be worth it. It's 50 energy, that's 6 Psycho Cuts, so this can get fairly spammy if you're trying to take advantage of a situation where your opponent is either definitely neutral damage, but especially if you're super effective, Grass Knot can really do some heavy work there for. And Grass is often a very meta-relevant type in a world where you have a lot of Pokemon carrying around ground types or carrying around rock or especially water types. Like if you get Cresselia with Grass Knot against a Mudboy, you're feeling pretty good about yourself. Oh, another fun sub-game you can play when you do have Moonblast and you have Grass Knot. You can play a little fun sub-shield game of, you know, you could potentially charge up all the way and then your opponent has to do that annoying, awful calculus of, okay, are they about to wax me with a Moonblast, or are they about to try to sneak in a Grass Knot, and what do I do here? So those options do help with Cresselia. Even though you're not going to get stab or same attack type bonus and get the actual damage buff on either of these moves, both the Grass and Fairy move end up being strong enough moves in their own right that we're going to recommend that set to you. So we recommend Psycho Cut, Grass Knot, and Moonblast for your Space Goose. This means your Space Goose is going to have good coverage against ground, rock, water, dark, dragon, fighting, and Psycho Cut will do okay against poison types as well. It's not like you're going to be useless out there if there's this poison type. Psycho Cut, probably not going to be able to farm, but at the same time, it will do enough damage and help you out a little bit. So overall, with these typings, Space Goose can have some pretty effective coverage in the PvP meta that we'll talk about here in just a little bit. But what about PvE? What about player versus environment? Is Space Goose a Pokemon that you want to power up to be able to fight raid bosses or clear out gyms? And the answer is don't. No. It's not where you want to be, both with the moves as well as the investment in this legendary Pokemon. The fact is, you probably have a stronger Psychic type Pokemon, Mewtwo, to be able to clear out raid bosses. It's just not Cresselia's specialty, and it's just probably not worth the investment. You also, in PvE specifically, don't want to be using two off-charge moves that are not going to necessarily help you. In a raid boss scenario, that's where same attack type bonus is really going to level up your game, and is really going to be able to pump out more damage. And if you're rocking Moonblast, unless you want to TM back and forth between Future Sight, the fact is you just probably have better equipped Psychic Pokemon on the higher end of the CP to be able to take the fight to raid bosses and gyms. Okay, let's get into the meat of it. Let's talk about the PvP relevance of Space Goose, of this Darkwing Duck love interest, and see where we can use this Pokemon. Overall, Space Goose is a very tanky Pokemon with a okay moveset, and a lot of times in the PvP, especially the GBL meta, that can be good enough. Just being able to take some hits and being able to dish out okay damage can make Cresselia a pretty effective fighter. First we'll talk Great League, then we'll do Ultra, and then we'll cap it off with the Master. Should you use Cresselia in the Great League? And the answer is yes. If you have a Cresselia that you want to power up for the Great League, if you can get it under that 1500 CP cap, Cresselia is a solid investment and oftentimes worth it. It's ranked 21 in open meta according to PvP Poke, and I'll pull up the matchups here on the side. You can see, while, obviously not an absolute game slayer against the Pokemon's top meta, I'm talking Stunfisk, Trevenant, Azumarill, and Bastiodon, it does win some key matchups against some prevalent Pokemon. Metachamp, Altaria, Scrafty, and Diggersby, especially Swampert too, all chalk up losses to the Space Goose coast to coast. And that could be a pretty oppressive resume. Other matchups that aren't on screen, Metawak, Steelix, and Basti absolutely crush this Pokemon. Do not take Cresselia anywhere near those three Pokemon. You're gonna have a bad day. It's also worth noting that these matchups right here, I know that some of them are losses for Cresselia, but the matchups can often be pretty close. Like I ran the the Azumarill simulation myself, and it was really close. So just as a note, just because you see a loss there doesn't mean it's a blowout, and oftentimes can be good enough and close enough to get you back into very contentious matches. So what should you look for Space Goose? How should it fill out your team? Well, I recommend, I wouldn't recommend leading with Space Goose, and I think it's a much better switch, but I would hesitate to call it a safe switch. There are a lot of Pokemon in the Open Great League meta that will take care of Space Goose quite handedly, but it's one of those things when it works like a charm, and then if it doesn't and they switch into something that has a clear matchup against Space Goose, it's going to feel pretty bad. But it's not like you can ever prevent that in an open meta, and Cresselia can often do enough and be good enough to get you back into something like a bad lead if it does work that way out. So overall, do recommend Space Goose for the Great League. What about the Ultra League? Well, the Ultra League is where Lunar Banana Hammock really... Lunar Banana Hammock. Ultra League is where Space Goose really shines. Lunar Banana Helmet really takes off in the Ultra League. It ranks number 5 according to PvPoke, only behind Registeel, Trevenant. By the way, if you haven't checked out, I'm gonna point to both sides. Our Trevenant pick of the week video. Just wherever my fingers points, that's where it came up. Definitely check out our Trevenant video if you want to see more of that Pokemon. But man, whew, what a beast of a Pokemon. But the other top ones are Talonflame and Galarian Stunfisk. That is some pretty good company to be in the Ultra League. The other thing you'll note, though, Cresselia doesn't need XL Candy to get up there, and this makes Cresselia the highest ranked non-XL Candy Pokemon in the Ultra League and Open Meta, according to PvPoke. And that is a huge savings of resources. There are plenty of people that just do not have the XL Candy to be able to power some of these Pokemon all the way up, and you don't have to with Space Goose, and you're still going to get a really quality Pokemon, much more budget friendly. Let's bring up Space Goose's key matchups. You will notice the 4 Pokemon ranked ahead of it, Registeel, Trevenant, Talonflame, and Galarian Stunfisk, all rack up wins against Space Goose, but it does tend to open up and get a little bit better after that. Get some really key wins against Giratina and Politoed, 2 Pokemon, Legs Giratina, which is just always in the Ultra League, but then Politoed has been really making some gains over the last couple seasons in Ultra League. Cresselia handles both of these Pokemon. I also, and not listed on the screen here, I also ran simulations against Togekiss, and Cresselia was able to win that pretty handedly. So when you look at the pantheon of not only the Pokemon that Cresselia is in, the budget friendliness, that is really useful when you talk about Cresselia as an investment for Ultra League. Where would I use Cresselia? I'd probably use it the same as the Great League. Wouldn't use it as a lead. I would probably rock it as a switch, and I think that's the more effective place for Space Goose, unless you just keep running into Giratina leads, in which case, rock on. Just nail them with your Cresselia and have some good time, and you'll be able to farm Legs Giratina there. What about Master League? No, don't. And I don't mean Master League in general, but also, yeah, probably don't. Cresselia is not going to go there. You're going to need XL Candy for it, of course. And for the Open and Classic, it honestly... For the Open Master League, you're going to need the XL Candy. And for Classic, it honestly isn't much better. It's just not worth the big ol' investment. There are other things in that very closed meta, which I know a lot of people are really fans of, that are going to be doing more work. I would really hesitate to call Cresselia an anti-meta pick or something that you could use to try to get an outside edge in the Master League. It's just not doing work there. You're better off spending your limited Stardust somewhere else for Master League. All right, it's time to give Cresselia a grade, and you could probably tell by the preceding information. We're going to go ahead and give Cresselia a pick of the week, WEEK. Overall, pretty impressed with this Pokemon. Not only is it really cool from a flavor standpoint, I love the way it looks. I think the shiny model is awesome. I think it's a really cool Pokemon overall, and it does just enough work in the Great, but especially the Ultra League, to make it worth your investment and a Pokemon that you can use to compete. I think if you've picked Cresselia up, it's worth the investment. I don't think you're going to have to worry about it. Overall, it's a good Pokemon. It's likely going to be useful for a very long time. I'm not worried about some Pokemon coming out very soon that's going to nullify Cresselia's gain in either the Great League or the Ultra League. And like I said, that can really matter for investment. It does suffer from Psychic typing somewhat. Psychic type can often be a double-edged sword inside the PvP meta of Pokemon Go, just due to the prevalence of coverages for Ghost and Dark types. But overall, I think Space Goose is going to do you well, and I don't think you're going to regret that investment. Okay, so that's what I think, but tell me what you think. Leave your thoughts in the video below and let me know how you think my evaluation of Space Goose Coast to Coast was. Do you think that I undersold it? Do you think I oversold it? What are your thoughts? Leave them below, let us know, and we'll read them out on the next episode of our show, because it's not just about what I think, it's about what the entire community of Pokemon Go Radio thinks. Other than that, please make sure that you're subscribed to this channel so you can find out when we release new content. You're guaranteed to have an episode of the podcast up every single Monday, but we like to do these fun videos throughout the week. We should also be having a Thanksgiving video coming up on Friday as well, so definitely check that out. You can see how the Pokemon Go Radio family does Thanksgiving as Nar and his wife Walls come to town, and you can see us celebrate, cook, catch Pokemon, and have a good time. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you liked the video, and in the meantime, go freaking catch 'em all.